What is up, beautiful humans? Welcome to this week's episode. In today's episode, we speak with a dear friend of mine, David Hall. He is a former Special Forces operator and just an incredible soul. I just love this man because he has been a guide and a sage, and to say he's an accountability partner would be an understatement. He has really helped me unlock my potential and be the best version of myself. And if you don't have a group of men around you that will help you and keep you accountable to be the best version of yourself, I highly, highly recommend it. It is the reason I even put this entire program together, this entire company, so that men would have that. And David is that for me. In this conversation, we dive deep into so much information. If you are looking for a deep conversation, this is it. So strap in. It's going to be a good one. And as always, if you are looking for a group of men that can keep you accountable, we do offer that through the Unbreakable Man program. Price at the end of the year is going to go up. Just quick heads up. If you want to dive into that, it is a 3-day immersive experience that will help you unlock your potential, tap into your power, and find your purpose. In that 3 days, you will be challenged mentally, physically, and emotionally, and you will come out the other side as the best version of yourself. You will be the man you want to be. So be sure to check that out. It's linked up in the description below. And as always, enjoy this week's episode. Let's go. What is up, beautiful humans? This is Dr. Dave Cahotis. I am on a mission to forge strong, heart-centered, and purpose-driven men. And this podcast is here to help you stop managing your problems and start breaking free of stress, limiting beliefs, and excuses that stop you from executing at your fullest potential, living with passion, and being the man you want to be. So let's go. David.
What's up, man?
Welcome, brother.
Thank you.
Dude, such an honor to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Gosh.
The honor's mine. Anytime someone asks me to come onto a podcast and talk, it's a little strange, but it's also like, humbling and grateful to be able to share experiences. I think that's sort of the point, right?
Absolutely. I've never met a microphone I didn't like.
I know, it's so funny. It's like, once you sort of get into it, like everything kind of fades away. And you're just like, I think that's one thing that I really enjoy about podcasts, especially doing them. Being on them is like, you're only here.
Yeah.
Like you get so wrapped into like, right, there's like that, the external noise and all the external factors just sort of dissipate. And it's kind of gone. And it's like, it's one of those like arts where you can like just be here and nowhere else.
Tune in.
Yeah.
So let's start there. You are in the shamanic arts.
I am, something like that.
Consider yourself a warrior shaman, which I love. There's so many ways to go with this, but how about this? Let's start with, how did you get into your current, is it a profession, career?
I would call it an expression.
An expression.
Yeah, like we've really been dialing in. I mean, as we know, like words have power, right? And so I think a lot of my work lately has been really exploring language around specific things, because once you find specific words around something, it really changes the entire perspective and the way you experience it, even though the process and the outcome materializes in sort of the same way.
Yeah.
The feeling that you get in the process of it changes.
Yeah.
Based on the language that you put on it. And so one of the things that I've really been working through a lot lately is, since we're on that particular subject, is that once you sort of realize who and what we are, which is one of those weird divine dichotomies, is like, well, you're everything. And if you're everything, then you're also nothing. And so like being in that space of like understanding the totality of all of that, well, then everything in the human experience and inside of that becomes an expression of your nothingness and your everythingness. And so it's like, I am creates an identity.
Yes.
And this is something that I've been exploring a lot lately. I heard it recently on a book, was where he says, I is. Because is just, it just is.
Yeah.
I am brings up an identity around your perception of your point of reference of where you're at.
Yes.
And no matter what, that's limited.
So let me see if I can break this down to kind of reference this. So what you're describing is we have an objective world that we see in a third dimension, right? Like we can move forward, back, side to side, up, down. And then there's a fourth dimension essentially which moves through time, right? Past, present, future, though there is no past or future. It's just now.
Yeah, based on our language, it's the best we can describe it. Yeah.
Right. And then there's the non-physical, which is the subjective world, which is the world of mind. And then there's the physical world, which is what we described. So what you're just saying is we have an opportunity to be anything through the subjective mind, and we can claim that into the objective world.
Yeah. We can manifest it in physical reality.
Yeah.
And in a physical experience.
Yeah.
And so to give you context of that, it's like if I say, if you ask somebody like, hey, who are you? They're like, oh, I'm a husband, father, special forces shaman.
Yeah.
Right? Like I just gave you multiple identities that create a total identity.
Yes.
But even if I say I am a father, my concept of what a father is subjective based on my point of reference and my reality and my experience of what a father is, which then limits fathering. Because I can become unconsciously attached to what I think a father is.
Right.
And then I'll never explore what a father potentially could be outside of that.
So how do we explore that without falling into essentially psychosis?
That's what's so fascinating about it. I think there's a negative context around insanity, crazy psychosis. And I think that there's a weird beauty in it.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that because then it's like, oh, you're becoming so disassociated from the real world.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what is the real world?
Right.
And so that very thing is like, you're going to ebb and flow in tiptoeing in insanity.
Yeah.
But then also playing in the game a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that is a healthy practice to be like, where have I created conditions around a specific thing? And if I'm saying father, I have conditions on what a father can be, how they can express, what they can do. And so if we use that in context of like, for instance, there's specific things that as a father, you would never, even though you do it, you express it, you experience it, you think it.
Yes.
You're doing it in the shadows because a father isn't allowed to show that to their children. A father isn't allowed to show that to the world. A father isn't allowed to be a specific thing because I've attached an identity to what a father is allowed to do or not allowed to do.
Right. So the way I look at it and the way I've taught this is basically we have a condition or an experience, right? Like something comes at us. Let's say it's our son or daughter and they say something that triggers us or just doesn't even have to be a trigger, but like without even consciously thinking, oftentimes we go into this pattern. It's just a natural pattern of rhythm. And maybe this pattern could be something that we saw our father do or someone else that we liked or did not like.
Yep.
And we react accordingly. And so that pattern is essentially we establish meaning based on our experience from our past experience, from what we have brought forward. We establish a statement in our mind around that pattern, and then ultimately there's an emotion established to that, and then there's going to be a reaction to that pattern.
And they're all attached to identity.
Yes.
And it's a really hard thing because, when you start looking at attachment in itself, really what it is like it's becoming detached from things. A lot of people think that like detachment is like getting rid of it, moving it away. And it's like, no, detachment just means the very thing doesn't own you.
Yes.
Like you can own it, but it cannot own you because once it owns you, now it's dictating to some degree an external factor, whatever it is, on how you can express, which is then limiting you. And when we start talking about limiting the human experience, this is where ultimately most of us, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but this is my belief and something that I look at is like, we are looking for personal sovereignty and freedom to express, choose, be, whatever.
Yes.
And what we don't realize is that we'll externalize all those places on where we don't have freedom and we don't have personal sovereignty, when in reality, your attachment to your identity is owning you and preventing you from being the very thing that you could see yourself potentially being.
So that, not only do I agree with that, like I'm like every cell of my body is just like jumping up and down right now, just knowing that that is truth because of my own personal experience with going from reaction to response,
Yeah.
and moving from fear into freedom. So that begs the question though is, and in your line of work and in my line of work, you know, we sort of both kind of, I would say we kind of do the same thing, right? We bring people from reaction, from fear, from what you just described of there is an identity, a condition that I must abide by. And if I don't abide by this, then I'm not, and oftentimes we say I'm not safe, you know, to express in any other way. We move from fear into freedom. So how do we do that?
It's such a multifaceted aspect because you now have to start identifying why you have those conditions on yourself. And that could be a host of things. Yeah. I want acceptance from my family.
Yeah.
I don't want to be judged by my coworkers. And so there's so many facets of these things where your insecurities or aspects around your identity that only you know about.
Yeah.
That if you were to give those to the world, would I be accepted? Ultimately, it's that. It's like, am I going to be accepted and embraced, supported, and celebrated?
Yeah.
And the gut-wrenching part of this is in our society and in our culture, 99% of the time is going to be no.
Yes.
Because if we're breaking down the infinite limited potentials of experiences that you can express, if we're using numbers, rough numbers, I'm just shitting out numbers here.
Yeah.
But 1% of the totality of what is possible may be accepted.
You're right.
Celebrated and supported.
Right.
So it leaves this entire human condition of all of these things that we've come here to experience off the table.
Yeah.
Only because we've put conditions on ourselves of like, I'm not going to be accepted, celebrated, and supported for this thing. So I'm not going to do it.
So
you're your own prison. You're your own warden.
Correct.
You're the cellmate, the prison, the structure, the warden. You're the entire thing.
Yes.
But we want to say, oh, it's politics, it's corporate America, it's family, it's religion, it's all these things. And it's like, well, you're opting into all those things.
Right. And to break free is scary. And in fact, I experienced just what you described, right? So in June, we sat with ayahuasca, which is a plant medicine from the
grandmother
from the Peruvian Amazon. My experience was beyond incredible, extraworldly. I was able to see things and have these revelations that I've never experienced in my life. And prior to that, and there's a natural process, and I recognize it because I've experienced this multiple times, where prior to a ceremony of any kind, whether it's breath work, whether it's plant medicine, sometimes even in therapy, there's always like a constriction, and I become an asshole.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. For like a short period of time. Yeah. And then there's like the moment.
For sure.
And then there's like this intense amount of freedom on the back end. And what you were describing, and we'll come back to the experience of ayahuasca, but what you're describing was so true for me, because when I came home, my wife was like, I don't even know you. Yeah. Like, who are you? Like, you're a completely different human. Yeah. And it was very destabilizing for her. And her and I are very committed to each other. So we worked through all of that, but it was almost like I went through a whole transformation, an identity shift. I became nothing, no one in no time. Yeah. Came back and was like, I can decide who I am or whatever I want to be. Yeah. And for her, that was like, what? Like, what? You know? And so
I was okay with what you were.
Yeah. Correct.
I don't know what you're going to be.
And that's exactly. And even my mom was asked if I joined a cult.
Yeah. It's a normal, I've been called a cult leader from multiple.
So yeah.
Which I sort of love in a weird way, because it's like, oh, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
In a weird way, because, ultimately a cult or a cult leader is control.
Yeah.
And all we're trying to do is dispel all aspects of the illusion of control.
Yeah.
And it's like we're doing the exact opposite of what a cult is defined as.
Right.
And so it's super fascinating, because that then lets me know that tension that's being created, because every phase, a part of this is tension.
Yeah.
And that tension is what people don't like. It's like, I'm familiar with this tension.
Yeah.
This everyday, whatever I've created already, I'm familiar with that. And really, it's not the unknown we fear. It's the fear that the known will go away.
Ooh. I'm going to stay with that for a second.
That's the ultimate fear. Everything I know may go. Because it's not the unknown that's scary. It's like, because ultimately you're still going to wake up tomorrow with air in your lungs and food in your belly.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're going to survive.
Yes.
It's what I know is that my wife loves me like this. My kids love me like this. My mom loves me like this. My coworkers love me like this. Love me.
Yeah.
Whatever our definition and perspective of love is in that current moment.
Yeah.
And it's like, shit, are they going to not now? This is known.
Am I going to lose everything?
Am I going to lose all the things?
Everything. And anytime I start a coaching container with anybody, I always describe the great unraveling.
Yeah.
No matter what. There will, anytime you want to level up, you want to be a better version of yourself, get some result. Maybe it's a better house. Maybe it's another car.
Insert anything.
The
old system will have to be unraveled.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And and here's the thing that I've noticed in my own personal journey, and we can kind of go back to my experience in June and my work with you, but it got rid of for me.
Well, but here's what's fascinating about the medicine. It is you.
Yes.
The medicines and the spirits of those medicines are guiding you to your higher self or your soul.
Yes.
And you're sitting down and having a conversation with yourself. That's really what it is. And so it's, we often do that. And I do that because it's like, grandmother is one of the wisest teachers I've ever sat with.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well,
grandmother
she was
being ayahuasca.
Yes.
This is what you're talking about.
And what I mean is that she's wise in the sense that she knows how to get me to me. She knows how to get me to speak with myself in my language and to see the way that I can see. All the medicines have this wisdom, because they're all portals or gateways or paths that connect us to ourselves.
Yeah,
and as of course you understand yourself. It's you,
right? Let me ask you this: how do I know if plant medicine is right for me?
Yeah, we often run into that a lot because I think when I first started sitting with medicines, our initial reaction, we get this a lot from a lot of people. It's like, everybody needs to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if we could, if we set a day on like January 2nd where the entire human population just sat in a medicine at the same goddamn time, it would shift a change in us to where we wouldn't even recognize yesterday.
Ooh.
It just would.
Yeah.
What's fascinating about that is this entire construct is built on energy.
Yeah.
Vibration, sound. And that's what's creating our physical experience. And the thing about plant medicines, you can insert plant medicines, you can say breath work, you can say meditation, you can say music, you can say everything is medicine. This is one of the things that we really try. I'm just a steward of Pachamama's spirit guides that are embedded within these medicines, right? And then there's stewards that are meant to bring forth music that raises the vibration of another human soul or experience or however. There's a ton of different ways to look at it, but ultimately it's vibration, right? And low vibration or denser energies is what keeps us in a fear state, the illusion of fear.
Yeah.
And this is what keeps us trapped in those identities and attachments and fears and judgments and all the things. The consequences of those and the second and third effects are always going to be at the expense of somebody else. Low vibration just operates like that. Yeah. And it attracts that very thing. I'm going to make decisions in my business so I can better my position, but it'll be at the expense of all these other things, which is then an atrocity towards yourself because you are me and I am you and so forth and so forth. And it's like, well, what I do to my fellow man is the same thing I do to myself. So if enough souls awaken, if you will, or continue to work to move these lower vibrations out where we start to change the dynamics of these things, it doesn't take a big percentage to shift the perception and the vibration of everybody around you.
Yeah.
Because as the average vibration continues to rise, it only takes a certain subset of the population in order to move that.
Yeah.
And then by a proxy of that, the whole entire consciousness as a whole continues to raise its vibration.
Yeah. All right. So I want to unpack a couple things because there was a couple things that we introduced. If somebody's listening and they're not familiar with even the word vibration, the way I think of it is, so like vibration is the way we interpret the world. Like, so a radio wave carries information,
Yes.
and then that information goes into our eardrum through our nervous system, and then it sends vibration through
We
us,
receive
right?
it and interpret it however we
exactly
based on our experience.
And lower vibration being when we sense something being low vibration. It's almost like let's say you're in a bar, and I always love to give this example because everybody knows this, and there's like some dude in the corner.
Yeah,
you just know. You're like, I don't like his vibe. I don't like this guy's vibe. We even use that term, vibe, with vibe, right? What you're describing and you're tuning into innately is, what is that state of mind and being? How is that person emanating? What are they putting out as far as their energy, right? Like you're tuning into that. And you kind of know, like, all right, this guy's walking down the street, or, you're like, I just don't like this guy's vibe, so you might cross the street or whatever. Well, for me, I understand vibration as like low vibration being things like fear, shame, guilt, greed, etc.
Judgment, yeah.
Right, judgment, all
the ones we know don't feel good.
Right. Exactly. Right.
They just don't feel good.
The don't feel good,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Higher vibration, as you step across the bridge of fear into courage, now you're going into higher vibrations. You allow yourself to emancipate yourself from the shackles of lower vibration. Now you're getting into the realm of bliss and joy and love and gratitude and all the good feels, right?
Yeah.
The feely goods.
But to stop there for a second, because we cannot escape the low vibration energies. It's a part of the experience.
Yeah.
There is always going to be an equal and opposing force.
Yeah.
We live in a dualistic world, right? And a world of polarities. And so in order for you to experience the high ends of bliss, well, the equal and opposing force, you don't have context of what that feels like until you know what it's not.
Say that again one more time.
You have no context of anything until you know what it's not.
How do we know it's not?
Exactly. You have to experience it.
Yeah.
And so part of the process is you will, like, if we've been talking about fatherhood, right?
Yeah.
It's like, in order to express what you think a father is, you have to experience what it's not.
So how do we know, again, how do we experience?
It's written in the, but that's up to you. That's it.
Yeah.
This is the thing, is like, life has no meaning. We give it meaning.
Yeah.
We bring meaning to life. That's like part of the design of the thing.
Yeah.
And so, and we were talking about this the other day about like healthy masculine, right?
Yeah.
We've all been in, and I was talking with one of my other loves, and she was like, yeah, it was just like, this one dude thought he was like a healthy masculine, but I couldn't be X, Y, and Z. And it's like, okay, so now we have a definition or an idea of what the healthy masculine is.
Right.
Now, he is going to be in another relationship with another woman that isn't going to have aspects of the way she wants to express her feminine. And his masculine is, she's going to feel safe with that masculine. It just so happens that the way my partner wanted to express her feminine didn't feel safe with that masculine. That doesn't mean it's an unhealthy masculine.
Right.
It just means you guys have a disresonance.
Yeah.
And so her idea and her experience on what she wants to experience as a healthy masculine, she has context of what it's not for her.
Right.
That doesn't mean that is not what a healthy masculine is.
Yeah.
Because remember, everything is about the self to some degree.
Yeah.
So it's, how do I experience a specific thing? And what I think it is not is mine. Yeah. You may think it's something completely different.
Right.
And that's okay.
Based on my experience.
And that's where like choice, acknowledgement, and really sitting in and being honest with yourself and trying to figure out, am I saying this is not because fears, or they call it shadow work, right? It's like, am I saying it's not this because of all of these aspects of my shadow that I'm just ignoring? Or have I identified all these things and I just realized that doesn't resonate with me, and that's not what it is for me?
Yeah.
So what it is for me is either the opposite or that, or aspects of opposite of that, and so forth and so forth. So where there could be two fathers that look on paper and expression ultimately the same.
Yeah.
One child grows up completely connected to her father, in love, and they have an amazing relationship, and they go 100 years together until he passes and moves on.
Yeah.
The other one hates her father.
Yeah.
And this is like one of those things where it's like part of that tension there is because there is still the vibration and the construct of conditions around things.
Yeah.
So he could have implemented the same fathers. He could have implemented conditions on the one daughter that she accepted and embraced wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
The other one implemented those same conditions on this other one. And she just was like, well, based on the way I want to experience this, these conditions don't work for me.
Yeah.
And so now she has trauma with the father.
Right.
And she could be like, that's not what a father is. And arguably the other girls can be like, that's exactly what a father is. And this is what's so fascinating about the human condition, because we have to be honest about our point of reference. And then ultimately get to a point where we let go of all of it and realize that the father is because it is not. So father is all of it.
Absolutely. The deep philosophy is, I love every time you and I get together, like I tune in, I'm like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like,
it's confusing.
It's confusing. It's for sure. It's for sure confusing if you haven't done a lot of deep exploration.
Yeah.
Now, let me kind of go through like my point of reference from like what I understand, and maybe this will help anybody listening to understand what that means, right? Like how to understand what it is not. When I go into something, let's say I'm getting there's a condition in my life and I'm seeing this as a trigger, right? Like whatever it might be. A perfect example, like we'll talk about my wife, right? When she doesn't accept all of me, that is a trigger for me, right? So I'm like, insert feminine partner must accept all of me, but in reality, I must accept all of me. That's what I'm looking for, right? Yeah. So when I explore all the aspects and how I'm showing up to the relationship and understanding how I'm processing through my own personal experience, I'm seeing both what it is and what it is not. And in fact, what it is nothing, because I'm creating the entire reality around the subject, husband and wife. And it doesn't matter what she says or what she does. It's all how I'm perceiving that which is being shown to me, the condition being in the physical reality. So I understand what means by what it is and what it is not, meaning everything is subjective. Everything is in the mind. Everything is essentially made up. This entire reality is being made up through us here and even this. That's right now. Point. Exactly. Right. So
we're supposed to be making it.
Right. We're all being,
because here's what's so funny about it. I've had people ask me this. They're like, we talked about meaning, right?
Yeah.
Like life has no meaning. We bring meaning to it. The point is to exist.
Yeah.
So like, you're all fucking crushing it. You exist.
Yeah.
That's it. Like you're fucking crushing it.
Yeah.
The purpose is creation. That's the purpose.
Yeah.
To create. So what do you want to create? So people always like, oh, my purpose is to feed starving kids in Africa.
Yeah.
No, you just externalize the entire thing. Your purpose is to create. So what are you creating? You're creating your love, your expression of that is to create sustainable food for starving kids in Africa.
Do I even need to put like a sentence to it? Could I just be, and I'm creating isness?
Isness.
Right? Like
it's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's like the point is creation, because part of it is we've come here to know ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. So like to just exist is already like, well, I have no choice now but to know myself. But that's what I opted in for.
Yeah.
I opted in to know myself.
Yeah.
And the thing about creation and infinite levels of like evolution and creation is that it never stops.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so exciting. This is eternity.
Yeah.
Religion talks about it in heaven and eternity and all of this stuff. And it's like, well, you're already here. You're already doing it.
Yeah.
It's already, the eternal creation is doing it. And it's so you can know yourself infinitely in all aspects.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that is a process that unfolds forever.
Yeah. It just continues.
It never stops. It's never going to stop.
Continues.
No.
So if you're listening at home, you're crushing it. You're doing great.
Literally, you cannot be destroyed.
Yeah.
You cannot go to another place outside of where we're all inevitably going. There is no up and down, left or right or wrong, good or bad. They're now based on this is where this subject gets really hard, because like you're telling me there's no right or wrong, there's no good or evil. And it's like, oh, so you're just saying the guy that rapes children is doing God's work. Like, it's hard to say. Yes.
Right.
It is a part of the design of the equation that creates definition on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Which is tough to stomach because it's a terrible thing, right? Like so based on the context of where we want to evolve to and experience,
right?
Hopefully, which is where this work comes in, that stuff no longer needed to experience ourselves.
Yeah. All right, raise your microphone up. I can tell it's falling.
So right now, it's necessary for us to experience ourselves because we have no other mechanism to do it.
Yeah.
So until we evolve past that, it'll always exist.
It'll always continue in the reaction. So I'm going to describe that in my way, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or not. Everything is mine.
There is no wrong, Dave.
There is no wrong.
We just covered that.
It's all just being, everything is being thought into form.
Based on the context of this conversation.
Yeah, based on the context of this conversation, right? We are not physical bodies. When you explore deep enough, you recognize the you that you think is you is not this physical being, but rather is the consciousness being thought into form, which is causing a physical being when you go deep enough. Yeah, I've had those experiences. Incredible.
Yes.
And it's funny I always love this. When you go deep enough and you're looking for God, you just find yourself. And then you recognize, I am God.
Yes.
It's the best. It's
everything is.
Everything is. It's all being thought into form in the current.
Yeah, we're it is experiencing itself.
Yes.
I was thinking about this the other day, and it's really this. It's you're not the song, you're being sung.
Ooh.
The result is music.
Ooh.
You're not the poem, you're being spoken. The result is poetry.
Wow. God.
You're not the dancer, you're being danced. The result is a dance. And so when you look at it in that concept, it's like, oh shit, we're the observer, the subject, the actioner, we're all of it. And you can ebb and flow out of any one of those. You can be the experiencer, you can be the observer, you can be the creator, you can be the dancer, you can be danced, you can be the dance, and you're all of it.
So you can express however you choose.
However.
I love that. That is so good. You're not the song, you're being sung. The result
is music. Yeah.
Oh my God. That is so good. I love every conversation I have with you ever. This is so good. Okay, let me reel us back.
Okay. And I know this conversation, we'll try to ebb and flow back into like some layman stuff, but when I do these conversations, or like when I have some of these, it's like we want to push it to as extreme as possible. So you're like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah.
And then we're going to dumb it down. And I hate to use the word dumb, but we're going to dumb it down because I had to dumb it down for myself in order to understand it. Because as I saw that and was journaling these complex ideas and these philosophical whatevers, I was like, that doesn't even make any fucking sense. Like, what are you talking about? And so like back to like the is not and is, it's as simple as this. I am not, therefore I am.
Based on?
There is no I am with I am not.
There is no I am without I am not.
Yeah, and if you look at the yin and yang symbol, it's like, it's not the white and the black. They're the same thing.
Right.
The darkness is the light. The darkness does not define the light and vice versa. It is the light. The light is the darkness.
It is all one. It's
all the same thing. And so this is where it's very tough to understand about like raising vibration and thinking that like, oh, I'm never going to experience fear and no, you just become okay with it. You can be with it without reacting or responding.
So as Viktor Frankl put it, between stimulus and response is where meaning
the
lies,
gap right there.
The gap. And
we talk about the gap a lot. It's like, can we sit in the gap long enough to find clarity?
Yeah. And there we are. Okay. So I love the deep philosophy because I understand it. I've been there. And I remember even listening to you and being like, Dave, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? Like,
I felt like I was losing my mind.
Yeah.
Which was like, which when I saw that, I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Well, thank me.
Yeah.
But like losing your mind is where it's at. Like that.
Like Carl Jung going into psychosis for 4 years.
When you're looking for peace, freedom, sovereignty, the soul's at the desire, the ultimate desire.
Yeah.
The ultimate desire is freedom to be whatever.
Yeah.
Like we got in this conversation the other day about like contracts and stuff. It's like we've come here for a specific thing. Yeah, the contract is the human condition. And you cannot experience it with conditions.
Right.
It has to be unconditional. It's got to be freed.
Can you live in
If not, you'll loop.
So can you live in the world in this physical reality without condition?
Yeah, and this is something that we've explored a lot because there's two ways to look at it, two aspects of it. When I went down the path of unconditional love, I wanted to be unconditional everywhere, right? I wanted to just be like you can say whatever you want to me, you can do whatever you want to me, I'm free to do whatever I want and and
naked on the street.
Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
But the thing is like you start to there's all these aspects of like betraying yourself, dishonoring yourself because you know certain things aren't serving you.
Yeah.
A certain thing that somebody says to you all the time doesn't feel good. It doesn't serve you.
Yeah.
But you're like, you can be in it. It's okay.
Yeah.
But you're now experiencing this thing more than you have to, which you're choosing, which is hilarious. So this is like one of these weird conversations around free will. But unconditional love, God's unconditional love, is to look at any choice in the world and love it.
Yeah.
Anything. Do whatever you want. I love it. Do that. Like I want to, but the thing is where you have unconditional love for the self is I'm not going to experience it with you. I'm still going to choose my experience in the way it serves me.
Yeah.
And because you choose that, I don't have to experience that with you.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you honestly and transparently and loving as compassionate as I possibly can. And so that's where I've found this weird, one of those contradictions or one of these weird dichotomies of like, well, you got to put conditions on what you're willing to experience because if not, you're not unconditionally loving yourself. So it's like unconditional love then by design has conditions in order for you to set your experience in the way you want it.
So, and I would even add, well, to be unconditional is a condition.
Yes.
You're saying I am unconditional, therefore my condition is unconditionality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fucking wacky because it's like I had a whole, I don't know, probably a year where like anything was fair game.
Yeah.
People, they could just say whatever they wanted to me. And I was like, I don't care what people think about me and like But I was lying to myself to some degree thinking that the people that I loved the most weren't supporting me in certain aspects and it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
And it's like,
or it didn't bother them.
Well, it was bothering both of us.
Yeah.
And it was causing disresonance in the relationship. Yeah. But I had to be this one of like, and I had to be in my own choice. And what I was thinking was like, well, shit, I'm in a specific space where everything is okay and I can be in anything.
Yeah.
And then that allows a space for them to just be whatever the fuck, even though it was jabbing at me or punching at me.
Right.
And it started to cause weight over time. It was like little pebbles just like being added in my rucksack.
Yeah.
Just little pebbles, one at a time. And then when it got so heavy, I had a conversation with a beautiful friend of mine and we were in medicine together. And she said a lot of things that were like, fuck, that really hurt. Like really bad.
Yeah.
And some of it was hers and some of it was mine. And I sat with a lot of it. And I was like, man, I could see how those aspects of where that can be misinterpreted, misunderstood, or that vibration was felt different by somebody else, even though my intention was pure.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, it's a part of the process where like your intention isn't always going to be understood.
Yeah.
And you got to be okay with that.
Right.
Because ultimately you're trying to get to a space where you're collecting data.
Yeah.
All vibration is nothing but data, right? You're collecting this data. And then what I tell people is like, fear is never going to go away. That vibration is always going to exist.
Yeah.
There's really two ultimate vibrations in the universe, love and fear, and then subsets off of each one.
Yeah.
It's never going away, but you have to like gather that information and sit in the gap.
Yep.
Right. And you have to look at those things as data points.
Yeah.
and then lead with love.
Yes. So, okay. So I want to touch on that because as your friend, right? Like for those that don't know how I met you, I actually reached out to you to start a men's group because like I needed a men's group to like hold me accountable. Actually, it was funny. It was like 3 years ago, like yesterday. It was, I was like, I saw this like memory pop up. I was like, dude, there we are. And I'm like,
I showed it to Maria and she was like, oh my gosh, you look 10 years old.
Yeah. And like, we look,
I'm like, damn, if I aged that bad.
We look totally different. We look totally different. I even looked at myself. I was like, dude, I look different. Right. And I remember when we started that group, we were starting definitely from this sort of hyper, get after it. We both come from the military background and like kind of, I'm not going to say hyper macho, but like we were both exploring, being better versions of ourselves.
Well, I think during that time too, it was also a response. It was at that time where like toxic masculinity was like on the rise. Men weren't allowed to be men, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And there was sort of like a lot of men were sort of like banding together. And it was like it was from the shadow in the sense of like, we got to combat this shit.
Yeah.
We got to like stand up for ourselves, which is like, that's not really a loving approach. That's a fear approach.
Yeah.
And so we led with fear to some degree, but this is where I talk about where it's such a necessary thing. It's like that information, that data allowed us to look at that and be like, wait, what are we doing this for?
Yeah.
And the only way that you can look at something and go, what are we doing this for? Is you got to be doing the thing to question the thing.
Yeah.
Like you have to do the experience.
You got to like come out of the experience and not
have
just
to
question. Now, the reason I bring this up is the point that you made about going on the journey of being unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what's very interesting. My experience, my friendship with you, we got very close. You and Ethan being the other guy were some of my closest friends in Austin for a while. And because I went the lone wolf for a long time.
Yeah.
I was like,
I think all of us were at that time.
A lot of men will do that and we'll just like fall into our own pattern and be like, we just don't have friends. So I was like, I'm going to just make a friend group, right? And then we got close. And then you started going on the path of becoming unconditional to explore that which you are not. And the reason I bring it up is my experience was like, where did Dave go? Right?
Yeah.
Like you were gone for like gone. Like it's not that like you were gone. I could text you and we'd still hang out. But you were exploring things that.
Yeah, we're like, where are you now? I'm like, I'm in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. You're just like, you're just getting after it, right?
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah.
And then we sat with psilocybin.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first experience. And I had read the studies from Johns Hopkins about trauma healing with veterans and being a veteran myself. I just knew, I was like, all right, there's something here. Cause I had been meditating. I had doing all this, like
doing all
the things and just something was like still amiss. Like I was suffering. Right. And so we sat with that. And then through the integration, now I could start to understand what you were talking about.
What I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I get it.
Well, it's this concept, right? It's like, hey man, the avocado is dope. It's got this brown cover. It's got this pit. It's got this green inside. It's fucking delicious. And you're like, sounds amazing, man.
Yeah. I've never had food before.
I don't know what the fucking avocado is, but I have context of it now because you told me about it.
Yeah.
And then you ate the avocado and you're like, oh, delicious.
Yeah.
I know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's what's so tough about a lot of these conversations is like, I'm speaking of an experience.
Yeah. Words don't teach.
That I viscerally like understand. And so part of this process is to be able to have these conversations so people have an idea of what an avocado is.
Yeah.
They at least now have an idea. There's a seed that's planted.
Yeah.
The experience is now they're going to take that seed and go plant it and water it and it's going to bloom and they're going to eat the avocado and be like, oh, I got it. Yeah. But we can only plant the seed. They've got to garden the fucking thing.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've learned that's been very challenging for me because I think initially it was very ego driven. It was like, oh, if I just say it the right way, if I just do it the right way, I can change people's lives just by like talking to them. And then it's like, well, you're robbing them of the very experience that they need in order to come to the very conclusion that I've come to for myself.
Yeah.
And that's not saying that you're going to express the way I do. It just means that you're going to explore and ask the questions of yourself. Where have I been betraying and denying my own love?
Mm-hmm.
That was the ultimate question I had. I was like, where have I been denying love? My love, my expression of it, where I'm willing to
of love of
everything.
Yeah.
All aspects of love.
Yeah.
Whether what I was feeling internally and what I was willing to give myself, but then also what I was willing to open myself to receive from somebody else, what I was willing to express to the world, what part of aspects of my life that I wasn't doing, because I joke about this as like, it's like painting your toenails.
Yeah.
Right? Like a special forces A-type macho something doesn't get pedicures and paint their toenails.
Yeah.
So for me, it became an exercise of like, why don't we get pedicures? Because there's like an unspoken condition around like what a macho man is.
Yeah.
I can see that. Like, okay, I'm going to go get reps in that. And I started getting pedicures.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, these are fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Why are we not getting pedicures like all the time? And then come to find out I was paying for the paint. I didn't realize that it was all included. I just thought that like you'd like, oh yeah, paint the toenails like an extra $10 or something. Lady's like, no, it's like included in the price. And I was like, well, fuck, like put the paint on my toe. I'm paying for it. And then I fell in love with my toenails painted. So now I get pedicures and I paint my toenails. And that simple thing.
Yeah.
Imagine how, dude, I get it still all the time, even from close friends. Oh, you're still painting your toenails? They still give me shit about it. It's the most hilarious thing. And so now it's almost become like this, like, almost like proving a point. It's like, it's almost on principle now.
Yeah.
They're like, no, I want you to question why I'm painting my toenails.
Yeah.
Why is it wrong?
You're right.
Why is this weird?
So
where does this condition come from?
Right. So,
and then,
okay.
That opens up a can of worms.
Here we have like society, and in society, there's a series of conditions, right? Like condition for everything, like what a truck driver is, what a soldier is, what a mom is, what a husband is, right? And inside of that, we have sort of like a series of loops that we're all sort of playing, right? So there are individuals we'll call them on the fringe, whatever you want to call it, just like exploring, hey, I want to paint my toenails. Hey, like, I'm going to express my love in a different way.
Yeah.
I'm going to do different things. And oftentimes those individuals, like, it's almost like we secretly want to be like them, but we also fear, kind of how we're going to show up.
Yeah.
I noticed that for myself when, I'll go back to my experience, like after ayahuasca, right? So in June of 2021, I sat with a plant medicine called ayahuasca, and I saw the entire cosmos. Like I saw it being thought into form, and then I was it. And then I was like looking around, like mind blown. And then I had all these questions, and I asked all these questions and got all these answers. And then when I came back from that, there was this unpacking of like everything that I saw was like, why do we do this? Like, why do we act in the accordance to the ways that we do this, right? And sort of like taking the red pill, like when Neo in Matrix like takes a red pill and he gets like sucked out of the tube and he's like, into a whole new reality. He's like, what? Like, this is what it really is.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like that. Now, how about actually, I want to go this direction. And we kind of chatted on this earlier, but I want to kind of like just verify, because I knew it was time for me. I knew it was time to quote unquote wake up. I want to unpack, number one, what waking up means, because I think that is such a it's a harsh term.
It's a little weird. Like spirituality, sort of. There's so many facets of that. Yeah, and spirituality is going to be no different, because it is an expression and a representation of our current experience. Yeah, if we're talking about the totality of this consciousness, 8 billion souls. Yeah. And so spirituality is going to have the same aspects that politics have, that religion has. Yeah. That, insert anybody. It's like anytime, and this is one of the things when people ask me about sitting with somebody or going into different medicine and some of these other kind of things, I ask them to look at it in the sense of, I come from a religious background. And one of the things and I still wholeheartedly support religion. Yeah. I think they're all true. Yeah. All of them. Yeah. I think they're all saying the same thing. I think man has come in and put their fear conditions on it out of its unconscious need for control, but nonetheless, it's some form of aspect of that. Yeah. Spirituality is no different. You're going to run into a guru that's sick with power, and we call it spiritual ego, but it's the ego nonetheless. Yeah. And they're going to tell you what your healing looks like. This is how you're going to heal. This is how it looks. This is what it all looks like. I'm giving you my perspective and my whatever, but what I would invite you is, if you were to ever come in and sit in ceremonies with us or whatever, what we tell people is like, we're creating a safe space for you to remember you. Yeah. And then to do it however the fuck you want. I don't care how you do it. Yeah. But wanting, if I had a want, that we hold us an intimate space that is safe for you to seek your truth.
Yeah.
Nothing more.
Yeah.
Past that, there's zero conditions in like how this is done.
Yeah.
What your healing looks like, how you want to express it, what conversations you want to have. I'm going to nod at you and be like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also that, but also consider it's this too.
Yeah.
And that. Because the fact of the matter is, it's all true.
Yeah.
All of this is true.
Yeah.
All of it. And all of it's right and all of it's wrong.
Right.
And that's why I use whether it serves me or it doesn't serve me. Because what's right for me isn't right for you.
Right.
So it's right and wrong.
So how do we know, like, how do I know if I need to, like, either not even sell my stuff, but how do I know if I need to go down to the Amazon, right? And like,
you do it. Here's the thing. If you are questioning that very thing around something, do it. It's that simple. Because then this is where the ego and its over analytical and overthinking brain.
Yeah.
If something comes into your awareness and you're like, I don't know about that experience. It seems cool, but I'm not sure and but it's like, there's pros and cons to it.
Yeah.
Fucking do it. So you know whether it's overall good for you or it's overall bad for you.
Yeah.
But you don't have that information until you experience it.
So what you're describing to me is I need to actually have courage and step
do it.
forward. Yeah. That's always
I'm leaving on March 5th. You can come with me.
Yeah. And you're moving. Or
no.
Not moving, but you're...
I'm spending 10 days. I'm spending 10 days in the Amazons again.
Your feet, not moving.
I'm going back to... we just got back from Peru. The girls went to get initiated to carry the medicine and serve grandmother ayahuasca.
Yeah.
I've been called to do the entire initiation to be able to serve the medicine or have the blessing from the tribe, but it's not a medicine that I carry. And there's different aspects around what that means in medicine.
Yeah.
My medicine that I'm the steward of, that I physically serve for the most part, and I carry, it's the ceremony that people come to me for is Bufo. That is my medicine.
Now, what is Bufo for people that don't know?
Bufo is 5-MeO-DMT and bufatine that comes from the Sonoran desert toad out of Mexico. Yeah. And there's some parts in Arizona and a little bit in New Mexico and some in Texas that I hear. But essentially, it's a frog that hibernates for 6 to 8 months out of the year. Yeah. And when it comes out of hibernation for mating in the monsoon season, they're like venom sacs, but venom's not the right word, that are like warts all over their body. Yeah. And that gets milked out of the toad. It gets dried out in the sun. And then that flake, when you vaporize it and heat it, it releases 2 compounds called 5-MeO-DMT and bufatine. And it's considered the God particle. It is a rocket ship right to source, right to you, right to the original point from where you came from. Yeah.
It's like when the modem gets unplugged and plugged back in.
Yep.
And just like, and it's going through
and it is 15 to 20 minutes in the medicine, maybe.
Yeah. It's like the great factory reset from my experience.
It is what I call an awareness medicine. It brings an awareness of you. Yeah. And everything you do and your behaviors and your patterns and allows you to respond, allows you to stay in the gap. Yeah. That's what that medicine does. Yeah. And so there's different medicines though. So like I serve mushrooms. Yeah. But I'm like the last resort of the person that serves mushrooms. Yeah. It's very rare now that I sit in mushroom ceremonies because we have other facilitators where that is their medicine. Yeah. But I am called occasionally to serve mushrooms. And so part of my ayahuasca experience, and so when you go to initiate an ayahuasca, it's not that you're just going and drinking ayahuasca. Yeah. It's not what it is. You're dieting with multiple master plants in the Amazon. Yeah. A bunch of them. Yeah. You bathe with them, you drink them, you don't shower, you don't brush your teeth, you don't put any external things outside of just these plants. Yeah. And what it does is you create allies with the spirits of these other master plants, and they all have essences that they carry. Yeah. Addiction, childhood trauma, chakra aligning, protection, all these different master plants carrying energy. Grandmother ayahuasca is the portal that gives you access to you, and then these other spirits come in. So when ayahuasquero, or a curandero, or a taita, or a maestro, it depends on... A curandero is essentially a traditional medicine doctor. Yeah. They know how to work with all of the plants and give you not only just ayahuasca, but all the other plants in conjunction that helps you with the specific thing that you're doing. Yeah. So you're not just working with grandmother ayahuasca. And so when you go and sit with traditional masters of ayahuasca, when you're in your healing process, and these are things that people don't understand about ayahuasca, the icaros that are sung, those icaros are directly connected to the different master plants that are coming in as your ally that are needed for a specific person in that ceremony. So when those icaroses are sung, that's a vibration going into a specific person that's carrying the essence and the wisdom and the spirit of another plant that isn't grandmother ayahuasca. That's actually bringing you vibrational, cellular, emotional, and spiritual healing within your body. And so those plants are now called upon by the maestro that's holding the ceremony, along with guides, along with white magic, along with the elements, along with power animals. And there's a lot of different tools on the back end, but they're all energetic spirits that have to do with specific parts of the healing.
Yeah. So you've been in the medicine now. You were mentioning like you carry a medicine and you've been initiated to carry this medicine. You've gone through a process.
Yeah.
And
well, the medicine calls you.
Yeah.
You know if a medicine has called you.
Right.
It is undeniable.
So I feel that with breath work.
Yes.
That's my medicine.
And you know,
and I just knew that it was
and it's terrifying.
Terrifying.
The first time you get the call, you're like, fuck, I don't want that responsibility.
Right.
Because you understand what it is. You know what it did for you.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, I don't want that weight, that burden. Yeah. But that's a story we tell.
Yeah. It's the hero's journey.
Really, the supporting thought behind that is I don't deserve this.
Yeah. Who am I to heal? Or who
I'm not
am I
worthy.
To be,
lack of self-love.
Right. To carry this.
To deny that calling is a lack of self-love.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel that. And I've experienced that in other ways as well. So my question then is, if I'm like ready, right? If I'm a consumer and I'm about to step into, let's say, ayahuasca or bufo or psilocybin or whatever plant medicine, how do I know if the person I'm about to sit down with is right? You were just describing a lot of very detailed information, which I think is super valuable. It's like, and I've heard of, I'll be honest, people have come to me to do breath work because they sat with somebody else, and they are now carrying almost more trauma from that plant medicine or that experience. And so they know that they're carrying this and they just want to release this trauma from their body. And so they'll actually come to me afterwards. So how do we know if like I'm looking around, right, for shamans or ceremonies?
This is what's so fascinating about the medicine too, with the synchronicities. There's we have a saying in this sort of field where it's like your healing's already done.
Yeah, I feel that.
You just haven't experienced it yet.
Yeah.
It's already done.
I could attest that because after I went through my experience in June, it just felt like I was healed.
You just remembered.
I just remember. Yeah. I was like, oh, I'm healed now. Like, oh, that was it. Yep. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to be everybody's experience. It was definitely like I had a certain, and it was very clearly shown to me in the medicine. This is your life prior to human condition. This is this weekend, and this is what your life will be like.
Can be like.
You
have to choose it.
Be, right?
Still have to choose it.
And correct. And I am now in service, but it was like cookies cooked, baby. Right? Like that's what was shown to me.
Yeah, you can eat if you want to.
Yeah. And and like you don't have to come back to me. That's what when we talk about grandmother, right? Yeah. She was like very clear. Like you don't have to come back to me. Like
the thing is you don't have to.
Right.
But you can.
Right.
And this is one of the other things too, is like we have to have a lot of discernment when it comes to there's so many facets of plant medicines where people do create codependencies around them. And then people avoid their work because this is my opinion and my belief on some of those things. Once you have asked for the help and the guides and you're creating an alliance.
Yeah.
And a sort of a sacred covenant, if you will. I'm going to start this work.
Yeah.
For humanity, for consciousness, for myself, for my family, for generations forward, generations back. That covenant. And your ego does not want to honor that. I promise you. It does not. And the plants, they will call and be like, it's time. It's time for your work. It's time for you to do your work for your family, for your ancestors. It's time for your part in this. And the ego can make it tell all kinds of stories. Yeah. That like, oh no, I'm not supposed to like do this anymore. The thing about that work with plant medicine, it never ends. So you have to have an honest conversation with yourself. Is like, when am I done? When am I at peace? When am I going and experiencing life the way I want to?
Yeah.
There's no need for any more medicine. There isn't. But the caveat to that is like, if you are going to carry a burden of a steward of a specific thing in this, I don't know, subset of work, of spirituality, or whatever the case may be, my belief for me personally, I have to follow it to the end. I have to follow all aspects of, I've got to look at all my past traumas from past lives, anything I'm experiencing currently in those past lives. I need to pull those lessons forward because they're important for this current experience, not only for me, but for the good of all.
Yes.
And so I will work tirelessly because I've made that covenant and that commitment, and it's sacred to me with my medicine and those other medicines to always answer the call when they call me.
Yeah.
And it's not that I have a dependency on them anymore. If they said, that's it, you're done, put them away, I put them away.
Yeah.
And I go about whatever the rest of this life brings forth to me. But as of right now, I have a sacred covenant and a mission that's a part of my soul contract and my soul's desire to fulfill. And I always answer those calls no matter what.
I love that.
What
That's
they look
beautiful.
like.
That's beautiful. I get a similar sense with regards to my physical, emotional, mental well-being, so I can show up in a way, right? Through what I facilitate through breath work and healing in general, even in coaching, right? Like if you're guiding someone to take action or set structure or whatever, it's like show up as your best self, essentially. That's the best way to describe it. And let me ask you this, like you were mentioning, the work is never done with the plant medicine. If I'm just like, let's say I'm in sales and I have a nice house in Central Texas and I'm, going to my job at whatever, Indeed or whatever company is out there, and you're in sales and you're like feeling anxiety and you just know that you have some traumas that you need to heal. And you're just like, I just want to feel better, man.
Yeah.
And you go and you experience these things. Is there a point at which you can experience these things, these plant medicines, and not continually going back? Or
yeah, okay. Definitely. That was one thing that I was trying to articulate, that like my process and my work isn't going to, people see me going to Peru all the time and going to Mexico and working with Bufo with my shaman. And like, they're like, fuck man, that dude's in a lot of medicine. Yeah, I am. I'm learning all aspects. I'm a constant, the pursuit of mastery of that is, to understand mastery is to just realize you're always a student. That's it. Every situation is an opportunity to just like, I'm just a fucking idiot right here, man. Yeah. Like, just show me. Yeah. And so the Bufo specifically is one of the most powerful, and I hate to use the word dangerous because Bufo is one of the only medicines that you can overdose on. One of the sacred entheogens. Yeah. And so a very, very skilled, very versed, and I take that very seriously. It's one of the things, it's why I work with that medicine so much. It's because there's so many facets of it and aspects and vibrations, Icaros, coding, decoding, encoding, transmuting. And then every ceremony that someone comes in, the medicine is its own unique thing for that person. Yeah. And I have to be in tuned and empty and being able to receive and hold and contain that. Yeah. Also being connected to the dose on what they need in that particular moment and so forth and so forth. And that's the same with, like most of the medicines, like you can't overdose on mushrooms. Right. I've ate 22 grams. It's fucking terrible. That's a lot. It's not fun. But like, there was a part of me that like when I would have a brief moment of clarity, I was like, it's not going to last forever. Yeah. But you can't fucking overdose on it. And even with grandmother ayahuasca, she'll just puke you out, dude. Yeah. You can drink as many cups as you want. She'll just puke you out, dude. Yeah. You cannot. Now, trust me, there is a point where it's like, man, you probably didn't need that last cup. That's okay, though. You learn that lesson. You got to know what it's not. It's okay. But you're more or less safe. Mm-hmm. If you put too much Bufo in a pipe and smoke too much Bufo, you are not coming back. You're not. You're just not. Yeah. And so there's aspects of that medicine that, and the reason I want to sort of talk about a little bit of that cautionary tale is because Bufo is making a little bit more of a mainstream push. It's talked about quite a bit. Joe Rogan talks about it. Mike Tyson talks about it. A lot of people talk about how it's changing their life. And there's a lot of people that are being called to that medicine. And the thing about Bufo, and this is sort of falls in line with mushrooms, ayahuasca has a lineage that's tens of thousands of years old.
Yeah.
There's a process.
Yeah.
And there is master after master after master handing that down from one to the other.
Yeah.
Right? Mushrooms doesn't have that. There's like one master of mushrooms in Mexico, and there's like a lineage from her. But for the most part, that's it. Everybody else is just like eating these things in their goddamn living room, growing them in their closet. Right? Which is fine. I'm not shitting on that.
I mean, that's how I started.
Bufo, a dude, for whatever reason, got a message to squeeze the shit out of a frog on the top of his windshield. This was about, there's arguments about whether it was 30 or 50 years ago, whatever it is. But it's less than 50 years old.
Yeah.
He squoze it on a windshield, saw that it dried, and was like, I'm going to stick this shit in a crack pipe and smoke it and see what happens. Saw God, came back and was like, whoa. And he was a medical doctor that got addicted to drugs. And used Bufo to cure his addiction.
Yeah.
And was like, holy shit. And he sort of brought that into, but it was just like,
here,
play a rattle and see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that's wrong or right or it's bad or whatever. And there's a lot of facilitators, and you'll have some beautiful experiences where, you know, you do a specific dose, and most of them, they don't really give like very deep doses. There's a lot of different doses in Bufo, and they just play some music and just let you roll. You're missing in the Icaros.
Yeah.
That's a vibrational coding from the universe, from source, that aligns specific energies in your body and moves specific energies of contracts that you're done with. And that thing is so crucial. For me, my process is different. So as I'm a steward of my medicine, I have two other facilitators, which happen to be my loves, my partners, my business partners, my lovers, my two wives.
Yeah.
The medicine tells me Maria's on the drum for this one. And she'll do a light dose. I go a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
And then everybody else just kind of kicks back, and whatever Icaros comes through a Maria is the Icaros for that person. Yeah. And then most of my work is I do a lot of different like mantras, and I have a specific coding inside me, if you will, that moves specific things. I look for things in the back end and the metaphysical that no longer serve you. Yeah. And so a lot of my work, and I do, Icaroses come to me in ceremony sometimes. Sometimes they don't. Song. It's like a song. Yeah. And it's a unique song specific for that moment, for that person. Yeah. They're never the same for the most part. Yeah. There's some similarities, but there's a coding in the way your inflection and the things change, and the way the drum or the rattle or whatever instrument is calling. Sometimes it's the flute, sometimes it's the ukulele, it just depends. Sometimes it's Danielle and she's on the singing bowls. Yeah. And so our ceremonies are a little bit different, because when I sit in ayahuasca with the girls, when they serve, I'm more or less like a guardian or protector of the ceremonial space, sort of my role. I'm looking for things that no longer serve this consciousness to move and transmute. So as they're working in their medicine, I'm also working in their medicine, tuned in with grandmother ayahuasca and doing my work while they're doing their work. And it's vice versa when they're in Bufo with me. So because I'm the one that's giving the medicine, it's like, I'm the steward, I'm the carrier, I'm making sure that doses are correctly. I'm channeling what the medicine is telling me, give or take, and sort of holding the container and guiding everybody. But for the most part, they're just doing their thing. Same thing happens in ayahuasca. Same thing happens in our Kambo ceremony. Same thing happens in somatic breath work. And so the thing about ceremonies in the medicine space, there's ancient traditions that have only gotten us so far. And there's an evolution or an evolving of the way energy is changing, the way it reacts, the way it acts. And then there's also things outside of physical world that are manipulating those things for whatever reason.
Yeah, we can have a conversation about that, but that's a whole nother.
It's a whole nother nut roll for sure. But to give everybody context, when you're looking for somebody to sit with, training is very important. Yeah. Their energy and your connection to them is very important. Yeah. If you get a fuck no feeling, that's very strong, don't sit with them. And I've had that with people. I've had that with like someone I was having a conversation with, and I was like, I'm not meant to serve this person medicine.
Like you can feel into that. Quick side note, Maria, can you move that light away from we got a little overheating situation.
Oh, is that what that's doing?
Yeah. So we're still moving, which is good. Oh, interesting. That's what it is. A little power. Yeah.
So the thing about when there's so many aspects of the way the medicines, and I think that there's an aspect of like your soul has a contract in order to come here, and there's specific things in your life that are going to wake you up.
Yeah.
Trauma can wake you up.
Yeah.
A beautiful relationship can wake you up. Music can wake you up. All these different things can wake you up. And I just think that there's a specific subset of souls that have opted in before this incarnation is like, oh, I'm going to sit with plant medicines at some point when they call.
Yeah.
And so I think you're just honoring that call. And that's why I don't think that everybody, well, I mean, I know everybody's not going to sit with medicines, because even, you know, if you look at like marijuana being legalized, the entire population of the United States doesn't smoke marijuana, only, you know, however, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing with plant medicines. It's like, even though it may eventually come to a point where it's completely culturally accepted and it's legal and we're not in the underground and all these other kind of things, there's still people that won't do it because it's not in their soul's desire to have that experience. Yeah. But that being said, so the people that do, the medicines will find you.
Yeah. So I felt that, right? Like, so perfect example, like I felt that. And before you sat with me, this is early on in our relationship. And
it was like 2018. Man.
Yeah, it was a while ago. You held space while I sat with psilocybin, right? And it was a heavy dose. It was 7 grams, which is, you know, 1 gram is lift off, as Paul Stamets says. Like,
absolutely. Yeah, you're connected.
Yeah, you're connected. 5 grams is considered what is, you know, a hero's dose.
Yeah, they call it a hero's dose.
You know, kind of right. And we did 7 grams, right? And I was gone. But in a way, when I came back, it was completely life altering in the most positive way, right? Now, of course, there's some integration on the back end of that. I had to do a lot of work, psychologically, physically, to unpack, okay, what was the insight here? What happened? How am I going to show up now with this new awareness? And for me personally, that experience was incredible. Now, it was 2 dudes in a living room, right? Yeah. Like, you know, and I trusted you.
Well, and that's where this is also another thing where like everybody has a construct of what their ceremonies look like. Our mission and our essence is intimacy. Yeah. We do more privates than we do almost anything, one-on-ones. Yeah. Most of our mushroom ceremonies are one-on-one because that allows you to go that deep. Yeah. It's very hard. If you had 5 people on 8 grams, good luck.
It's
chaos.
It's chaos.
It's chaos. Absolutely. It's an energetic chaos. It's tough to deal with. And it's not, I'm not saying that it can't be done, but it's chaos. It's a lot. Yeah. Many times when you sit in group settings, it's normally 3 to 4 grams for the most part for a lot of people because the energy is manageable and you also still get an experience that's healing. Yeah. But a lot of people, you can get a lot of work done in that 6 hours. Yeah. A lot. And you can get more work done if you're not dealing with other people's energies. Yeah. A lot more. And so even in our ayahuasca ceremonies, we only hold 10 people at a time. Sometimes 12, depends on, you know, if things pan out. But there's ayahuasqueros out there that'll hold 50 people in a ceremony. Yeah. Which is fine. No, I don't hate on it. I've had beautiful experiences with 25 people in a ceremony. Yeah. It was a lot to deal with. Yeah. But they were life-changing. Yeah. But my most powerful ayahuasca ceremony, hands down, was with 5 people. Yeah.
That was the first one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because it was 5 people that I knew. Yeah. Really good friends of mine. People that I love. We all knew we got our shit. We all know that we're safe in this environment. There was no like, I don't know about that dude over there. You know, that whatever your ego story starts telling. But in big ceremonies like that, and people have experienced this where the medicine isn't meant to cause more trauma. Right. And you can cause more trauma to people if in the wrong environment, in the wrong set and setting. Yeah. And they can leave more traumatized than when they're more confused about life than when they first came in. Yeah. Because if there's 20 people and the energy isn't being managed correctly, and the one person's super sensitive to energy, but they're carrying a lot of stuff. Yeah. Not only are they carrying all their stuff, they're filling everybody else's stuff in the same. Yeah. And they're just like, fuck, man, do I want to kill myself? Do I want to do this? Am I trying to do that? Like, am I sad right now? I don't know what. And I experienced this when I came back from Peru this last time. We were in the jungle I was there 2 weeks, dieted with 5 plants. Okay. Sat with grandmothers 6 times. And what they did was it was an initiation process in order to understand and work with the medicine to be able to serve the medicine. That was the process. Yeah. Which obviously has your own internal work and that kind of stuff. But I was there to be aligned with the girls so I could be energetically in line with them to be in their ceremonies with them to help support. Yeah. What we underestimated was how sensitive we were going to be to energies. So leaving Peru and flying that 24 hours and being around all those people and in that airport.
In airports.
And coming back. And like when you diet with these plants, you're on a 30-day, like no sex, certain foods. There's like a dieta you follow.
Yeah.
And we had already been in a 6-week dieta on top of that.
Yeah.
And then another dieta on top of that. And then we couldn't leave the house for like 2 weeks. I was like, don't go anywhere he was saying a week. A week is okay, but like I recommend 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we made the mistake of going out on day 10, the day after Christmas, I think.
Yeah.
There was like people everywhere. It was like we just couldn't get out of there fast enough.
Yeah.
Because there is, when you go in and you obtain or raise a new vibration, it's a new you.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
Yeah, it's confusing to a lot of people.
You're like, I don't even fucking know what I am or who I am or how I'm even going to do this thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, so we've been doing 4 years worth of work and serving and doing all these things. And then we go have this really deep process in the jungle where modern life doesn't exist.
Right.
We're in a hut.
Yeah.
The only thing we're doing is playing music all day and like smoking mapachos, which is a tobacco. It's like it's the purest tobacco of a cigarette. Just like working with that medicine, because that medicine carries its own vibration, and prayers and some other things. And so like we were literally just doing that all day, staring at the jungle. There wasn't cars coming and going and like, hey, where do you want to go eat dinner? Do you, what's the business going to be doing with this? Do we need to take these emails? How so-and-so on the text? So like we didn't have any of that shit.
Yeah.
And so it was very calming and very like peaceful. It was very like, okay, like we can do this. This isn't so bad.
Yeah.
The moment we went back into the city, it was fucking chaos. We wanted to kill each other.
Yeah.
We couldn't manage each other's emotions. We couldn't manage the city's emotions. We couldn't, not only and then trying to identify our own stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know what's mine. I don't know what's yours. I don't know what the fuck is that. It was just, it was chaos. It was absolute chaos. And so if you are going to have a deep process like that, I would prepare for 2 weeks off the grid.
So how do I know? And, if I'm about to step in, if I'm like a consumer, again, we're going to go back to that guy that's like a sales guy and he wants to step in and he wants to do any medicine, really. How do you know if that person that you're about to work with or even that group is the right group? Like how do you differentiate that?
So what we do is we have a long process to get into any of our ceremonies now, and it's been refined over time. It's been getting tighter and tighter and tighter just because there's so many aspects around the energetic world that you're trying to keep an account.
Right.
Everybody's on medications.
Yeah.
Everybody. 7 out of 10 Americans are on some form of prescription medication. Mm-hmm. You cannot be on prescription medication when you come into some of the, especially the DMT based.
Yeah.
And some medicines are okay with psilocybin, but for the most part, we don't even chance it. But there are studies that shows that they're like, okay, we don't even chance it. We're just like, no, you got to come clean off this shit. And we have different time frames for different medicines. So we recommend a couple of weeks normally for all of them.
Yeah.
But like psilocybin, for instance, if you can come off, if you're on a low dose of something, and this is where we have these conversations with people, 3 to 5 days. We normally do a cambo, which is like a physical purging of the body. And so we hop on what we do specifically here, since we carry so many medicines and we have so many different facilitators and we have a whole center. This is like what we do. This is our life. We sit down and we have a conversation with them. We hear their story. We hear what they're looking to do. We talk about their intention. We look at their medical history. We have we're on the conversation with them for about an hour. And then we give them, if they're coming in for a private ceremony or a private retreat for their own, we give them a prescription. This is what we think based on everything you're saying. And we also receive messages from the medicine like, hey, needs this one, so forth and so forth. And then when we set up retreats, we have designed a specific retreat where it's 5 medicines and then a ton of integration in between every medicine over 5 days. And so one of them's somatic breath work, one of them's a cacao ceremony. So they're milder medicines, but it's ayahuasca, bufo, an integration mushroom, and 1 day of cambo. So over this 5-day period, you're with 10 other people. Yeah. Most of the time, the universe brings us directly in line with who's supposed to be there. Yeah. Most of the time, who we talk to we're like, yep, they're there for sure. Yeah. And then every once in a while, we'll have a conversation with somebody. We'll say, hey, that's not enough time in order for you to come off your specific medications, but we have retreats every month. So we just find one that they can fit into. But we found for most people in the modern day, coming in for that 5-day retreat is will change your life forever in a way that I can't even put words on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll attest to that.
Yeah, literally, I don't even know how to articulate that, like, because every experience for each person is so profound and unique and individualized for them.
Yeah.
And this is where the medicine is so wise in this. They just come out of that, like literally on Sunday, it's like we're sitting around after the mushroom integration shit and everybody's just like, the only words they have is just like, it's a feeling. They're just fucking, everyone's just fucking crying. Everyone's sitting in a circle. Even the facilitators, we're just sitting there just fucking crying. Like, I cannot believe that 5 days just happened. And I can't believe that this is where we're at.
Yeah.
Because we see each day the shift.
Yeah.
Each day it just changes just a little bit.
And your experience now has even evolved from when I experienced it only 7 months ago. And to see you guys now evolve this and how much work you put into yourselves as facilitators and to see this even as a friend, it's been just incredible to watch.
Thanks.
Yeah, man, it's amazing. So one thing that I want to do is, let me ask you this, like, how do people get a hold of you if they know they're ready for this?
Yeah, so Instagram is probably the easiest way. If you go on Instagram, it's The Hive Healing.
The Hive Healing, like the word behind us.
Yep. Yeah, you see on the thing. It's The Hive Healing.
These turkey feathers, I just want to just give myself a shout out really quick. I harvested that turkey.
So when I put those up, I was like, oh my gosh.
They look so good. They look so good.
My personal Instagram is Sacred Gunfighter.
Sacred Gunfighter.
Yep.
And then,
the Warrior Shaman. Which is funny because it's like, I think that it was funny. Caught this video. I think it was like Keanu Reeves. And I forget who he was talking to, but I think it was like Drew Barrymore or something. She goes, oh, I'm a lover. I'm not a fighter. And he goes, no. And he stopped her real quick. And he goes, no. He goes, well, what kind of love is it if you're not willing to fight for it? And I was like, fuck, man. So you're like all of it, right? And he literally got up off the stage and just like walked out. And I was like, no, I really like that. And so that essence of, the warrior shaman, and that brings an energy of a containment of like, you have a warrior here, but it's a warrior that's willing to fight for love.
In love.
A guardian of free will and choice.
Yeah.
And when they sort of feel that essence, it's like, oh, fuck, man, I'm safe to like be whatever the fuck here.
Yeah.
Because I got somebody that's got my back. Like
I feel that energy through me too. And I think that's what attracted me to you and vice versa is when I'm facilitating any healing, it's as if I'm on the wall looking out, letting the individual do what they need to do on the inside.
You're just holding the battleground.
Just holding the battleground. Yeah. And I take it very seriously. And I know you take it very seriously. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. My son called me that.
Oh,
he's like, oh, you're like the warrior shaman or something. I was like, what? It was like kind of one of those funny things that just kind of stuck.
It's perfect. It fits you really well.
Yeah. But again, it goes back to that, like, it's an expression of mine.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Because what I am is none of that.
Yeah.
None of it.
Yeah.
I get to express in so many different ways. My life is wacky, and I know it's wacky. It's like my whole entire experience is illegal, for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
Which is fucking weird. It's like 2 wives is illegal.
Yeah.
Serving these medicines is illegal. And which is so funny to me because it's like, so freedom and choice and personal sovereignty and seeking my internal peace contradicts every condition that society and culture has put on us.
Right.
And that was my path, was like, okay, I want to contradict all these things from the ego space first.
Yeah.
I want to contradict all of it. I just want to rebel against all of it.
Yeah.
So I have context.
Yeah.
And then from there, I can look at it from a compassionate, loving, graceful, peaceful being and then go, oh, okay. And I think that there's a process that a lot of people skip around that where it's like, just kill the ego, get rid of this thing. Everything's love and light, everything. And it's like, no, man, like you got to look at the thing. The ego is here in service of you.
Yeah.
Use it.
Yeah.
Use it and then make a partnership with it.
Yeah.
Make amends with it, make peace with it.
Yeah.
And I tell people this is like, if there's really, in the polarity and the duality of things, there's the 2 energies, right? Love and fear and so forth and so forth. Well, there's the masculine and the feminine. And I look at the ego as the masculine.
I want to stop you.
Go ahead.
Just for this 1 second, because I want to touch back on this. Like that's a whole nother conversation for us to have. what I want to do is let's dial in. We'll do that at part 2.
Yeah. We'll finish it.
We'll finish that because I also have questions about your expression of love with 2 wives or 2 partners, because I'm sure a lot of people have questions about that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure once I got brought up, they were like, "What the fuck?"
They were like, "Who's this guy? Well, he's got 2 partners,
This machismo, egotistic, shadow-driven,
with that
whatever."
man bun,
for sure, for sure.
So I do want to touch on that. So we'll come back to that. We'll talk about the masculine and feminine, because I think that's super important.
It's very important.
Understanding energies. We touch on a lot of energies and obviously ego. So let's dial in. How do they get a hold of you if they know it's right? Obviously, it's
the Hive Healing.
Hive Healing.
At the Hive Healing. You can email me, dave@sacredgunfighter.com.
Okay.
We get all those emails. You can go to my website, sacredgunfighter.com.
Yeah.
There's a contact form on there.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to migrate that all over into the Hive Healing and relaunch the podcast and do a bunch of other things. Right now, we're just in the middle of acquiring a new property that has the entire retreat center on it and all of our business. It's sort of a little commune. It's like if you're going to be a cult leader, you got to have like a commune. So
you got to be a cult leader. You got to have your own place. Everybody wears white.
Yeah, we're like working
or orange or whatever color.
Yeah, it's on a creek. It's got its own pond. It's got a bunch of houses. The retreat center will be there. So when you come and stay, it's in the northern part of Liberty Hill. You're in the country.
Central Texas.
Yeah, Central Texas. So you're off the grid, but it's in Austin. It's 30 minutes of the airport.
Yeah, 30 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can literally, there's no sales pitch. There's no nothing. Yeah. Literally, all we want to do is hop on a phone call with you and get to know you no matter what.
Okay. So do a discovery call.
Yeah, just literally, we're going to set up a call, and all we're going to do is just be like, tell us about yourself. This is who we are. What questions do you have? Connect with you energetically, put a face to a name.
See if it's right.
And then most people, I would say a good bit of those calls, we don't hear from them for 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
then they're there.
They're like, Dave, dude.
Time.
It's time. Yeah. And so the thing is like right now you may be in your discovery phase of that. And that's how it works.
Yeah.
I was listening to podcasts and denying this fucking call for like 5 months.
Yeah.
Until someone handed me the shit in my hand. And I was like, I haven't seen this dude in like 4 years. He's like, I got something for you. I was like, what? He handed me psilocybin.
Yeah.
That's how my journey started.
Yeah.
I was like, every podcast was like psilocybin. Every book I was reading was psilocybin. I went and got tattooed. My guy was like, dude, we should sit in mushrooms this weekend. I was like, dude, I'm not doing drugs, bro. You know? And then literally the next day I run into this guy in the grocery store. He's like, dude, I have something for you, right out of his fanny pack. And I was like, that's fucking weird.
Yeah.
And that's how it works.
Yeah.
It's like the medicine will literally, you'll start to have dreams of pythons, toads, cactuses. And when you start seeing those specific things, the medicines are calling you to some degree.
Yeah.
Grandmother is represented as a python. She's very common in people's dreams. They'll be like, dude, I keep dreaming of these fucking snakes and these big pythons. I'm like, yeah, grandmother's calling, man.
It's there.
She's calling for sure.
So you'll know, is what he's saying.
Yeah, every time you go on a hike, you'll see toads.
Yeah.
Frogs jumping everywhere.
Yeah.
You'll be like, what the fuck? Everywhere. It's just, they'll let you know that their presence is there. And it's about time to start.
We'll talk about synchronicities in the next one too. So,
yeah.
All right. So I'm going to cut us off right here. We'll go to part 2. We'll do a quick break.
Yeah.
And we'll come back.
Yay.
All right. I love you, bro.
I love you, man.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Unbreakable Man podcast. If you found this episode valuable, then go ahead and leave a 5-star review explaining how this podcast has helped you so more people can find it. If you want to be a part of the Brotherhood, then click the link in the description below. You can also check out the Unbreakable Man experience if you're ready to face a deeper challenge and change your life for the better in just 3 days. All right, guys. Thanks again for listening. I appreciate you. And as always, stay unbreakable.